Hey, YCIS students, Mr. Hackman again. This is week 9 of our Zoom learning. I can't believe we're 9 weeks into this, and fortunately, getting ready to come up on a Easter break. And that leads me into our final assembly before the break, which of course is going to be our Easter assembly. Now, if you're like me, especially sitting at home during this time where you're spending a lot more time at home, been eating more chocolate lately. There's something about Easter and chocolate. Easter egg hunts when I was a kid, young boy growing up in America. We used to have Easter egg hunts. And the night before Easter, my parents, we would get together as a family and we would dye the eggs together. And we'd have this wonderful Easter egg hunt where my parents would hide the eggs in the morning. And we find not only eggs, but chocolates and chocolate Easter bunnies. And it's a lot of fun. And it's great that living here on Ma Wan for the last few years, I have some really good friends, Xian and Jenny, who run the Ma Wan Easter egg hunt. They started it a few years ago with just a few people. They have a real heart. They're Christians. They have a real heart to give and to bring life to the community and to share the message, the Easter message, especially of Christ, which I'm going to share in just a moment, with others. And it's an exciting time. And unfortunately, it looks like it's not going to happen this year. But this is what happens every year. And this is one of the reasons that really has made Easter exciting living here in Ma Wan.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I'm Xian Lo. I'm the lead coordinator of the Ma Wan Easter Egg Hunt 2018, and it started with just 40 people on the beach, and it's grown and grown. The message this year and all our years is the message to give. We want to bless the Ma Wan community, and also encourage the spirit of giving and share the real meaning of Easter.
So you can see my family's participated, and it's a really great opportunity. And although we have the chocolates and there's the eggs and there's all the excitement, there's always also this wonderful message of Easter and the resurrection, the death and then ultimate resurrection of Jesus Christ. If you're not familiar with that word resurrection, it really means to come alive. If you're not familiar with the Christian faith, this is probably the most important time of the year, even more than Christmas, because Christmas was when Jesus was born and entered into the world as a human being, when God entered the world as a human being. But Easter's a real special time where Jesus did something that no one was expecting. If you think about it, the people of Israel at the time were looking for a Messiah to come. A Messiah be a deliverer, somebody who would free them from at the time they were under the oppression of Rome. They were under Roman control. And they were envisioning God was going to send them someone who was going to free Israel from the Romans. Everyone believed that was what was going to happen. Jesus's disciples believed that. Jesus's family believed that. The people that followed Jesus everywhere thought, wow, this is really going to happen. But Jesus kept saying, I'm going to be doing things different. I'm going to show people how to love one another, even their enemies, even to the point where I'm going to give my life. Like essentially the system that we all are involved in, even that we are involved with today, struggles with someone like Jesus, someone who loves unconditionally, who has no agendas, who's not trying to manipulate others for their own gain. In fact, he kept saying, I'm going to go to Jerusalem and I'm going to be executed. And everybody kept saying, what? This is crazy, because you're going to be the Messiah. You're going to enter victoriously. You're going to win. You're going to deliver us. What's interesting is when Jesus finally does enter Jerusalem, those few days before Easter Sunday, or at the time, it was the celebration of the Jewish Passover. That was the time of the year where for hundreds and hundreds of years, the Jewish people had been celebrating their delivery from slavery out of Egypt into what they thought was the promised land. And it's not coincidental that Jesus chooses this time to institute his plan into action. So during this Passover week, when everyone's getting ready to celebrate the biggest holiday, Jesus rides in, but he rides in on a donkey. Just a little, the Bible says a little colt, like a little humble colt. And really what he's doing here is he's already communicating that he's going to be doing things a little bit different. And so, I mean, if you go to anywhere in the world, any big city, often in European cities or in America, or I imagine Australia, you're always going to see a man, a victorious military guy on a horse. There's always something about the power and the majesty of a war horse, and this person did some great thing. And yet, Jesus kind of flips all of that around, and he goes in humbly. And you can see when he's doing this, that he's really mocking kind of the system that we all kind of celebrate. And so everything happens according to what he shared. And he was executed. He was nailed to the cross by the Romans. And everybody just thought their whole dreams are shattered. Oh my gosh, the Messiah, we thought this guy was going to deliver us from the Romans. He's being crucified by the Romans. How can anything good come from this? But that was all part of God's plan. God's plan was bigger than Israel, bigger than Rome. It transcended the time period of that time 2,000 years ago, and it affects us even today. His message of unconditional love, of loving your enemies, resonates and has an impact on us today. So I have a video of our secondary students reading from the Gospel of Luke, the Easter story, and I want to share it with you. And it starts off with Jesus is dead. They've put him in a tomb. And on Sunday morning, which we celebrate now as Easter morning, but of course they didn't know it was Easter yet. It was just 3 days after Jesus had been crucified. His mother and a couple of the female followers of Jesus went to the tomb to bring spices. This is a traditional thing they used to do to preserve the body. But when they get there, they find that the tombstone rolled away. An angel's there. There's no Jesus, and they're freaked out. And they go back and tell the disciples. Of course, the disciples don't believe them because people don't rise from the dead. They just don't do that. But they rush to just see. One of them gets the idea. Peter gets the idea. Wow, what if it did? You know, Jesus did mention something about this. What if it really did happen? They run and they find the empty tomb. Then the story changes quickly to two of Jesus's disciples walking along the road to a town called Emmaus. And as they're walking, this guy comes up next to them and starts chatting with them about asking what's been going on. And then they share, hey, where have you been, man? For the last few days, it's been the biggest news in Jerusalem. This guy that we all thought was going to be the Messiah and deliver us from the Romans ended up being crucified by the Romans, and all of our dreams have been shattered. And this guy goes on to explain what Jesus's real role was meant to be in a way that was much bigger than they ever anticipated. So then these two men invite this third guy to join them for dinner. They don't realize it's Jesus. They don't recognize him. But when they sit down at the table and they see Jesus break bread in the same way that he did the night before he was crucified, before he was killed, they suddenly recognize who he is, and they see that Jesus did resurrect from the dead. And that's the glorious story of the Easter message. I want to share it with you now, this video of our secondary students. Enjoy.
星期日朝頭早，嗰啲婦女帶住咗準備好咗嘅香料同埋香膏，到咗耶穌嘅墳墓，發現原本擺喺墳墓面前嗰個大石俾人碌開咗，入咗裏邊見唔到耶穌嘅遺體。
They were puzzled, wondering what to make of this. Then, out of nowhere it seemed, two men, light cascading over them, stood there. The women were awestruck and bowed down in worship. The men said, "Why are you looking for the living one in a cemetery? He is not here, but raised up. Remember how he told you, when you were still back in Galilee, that he had to be handed over to sinners, be killed on a cross, and in 3 days rise up?" Then they remembered Jesus' words.
They left the tomb and broke the news of all this to the 11 and the rest: Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary the mother of James, and the other women with them kept telling these things to the apostles. But the apostles didn't believe a word of it, thought they were making it all up. But Peter jumped to his feet and ran to the tomb. He stooped to look in and saw a few grave clothes. That's all. He walked away puzzled, shaking his head.
That same day, two of them were walking to the village Emmaus, about 7 miles out of Jerusalem. They were deep in conversation, going over all the things that had happened. In the middle of their talk and questions, Jesus came up and walked along with them, but they were not able to recognize who he was.
He asked, "What's this you're discussing so intently as you walk along?" They just stood there, long-faced, like they had lost their best friend. Then one of them, his name was Cleopas, said, "Are you the only one in Jerusalem who hasn't heard what's happened during the last few days?"
耶穌話：咩事啊？佢哋就話係關於拿撒勒人耶穌嘅事。佢係一個先知，喺上帝同埋眾人嘅眼裏邊呢，講嘢做嘢都好有力量。我哋原本就係希望佢係嚟救贖以色列嗰一位，但係咧我哋嘅祭司長同埋我哋嘅官員呢，就將佢交咗俾羅馬政府判咗死刑，釘咗喺十字架上面。今日已經係事情發生之後嗰第3日啦。
But now some of our women have completely confused us. Early this morning, they were at the tomb and couldn't find his body. They came back with a story that they had seen a vision of angels who said he was alive. Some of our friends went off to the tomb to check and found it empty just as the woman said. But they didn't see Jesus.
Then he said to them, "So thick-headed, so slow-hearted, why can't you simply believe all that the prophets said? Don't you see that these things had to happen, that the Messiah had to suffer, and only then enter into his glory?" Then he started at the beginning, with the books of Moses, and went on through all the prophets, pointing out everything in the scriptures that referred to him.
They came to the edge of the village where they were headed. He acted as if he were going on, but they pressed him. "Stay and have supper with us. It's nearly evening, and the day is done." So he went in with them. And here's what happened. He sat down at the table with them. Taking the bread, he blessed and broke and gave it to them. At that moment, I opened, wide-eyed. They recognized him. And then he disappeared.
Back and forth they talked. Didn't we feel on fire as he conversed with us on the road, as he opened up the scriptures for us? They didn't waste a minute. They were up and on their way back to Jerusalem. They found the 11, and their friends gathered together, talking away. It's really happened. The Master has been raised up. Simon saw him.
I want to say God loves you. Go into your Easter break. Get the rest you deserve. You all have been working so hard. Teachers have been working hard. Students have been working hard. You deserve a well-deserved rest. So I hope that this Easter break is a time where you can recharge your batteries, get some rest, and just want to say the Easter message of renewal and new life is as relevant today as it ever was. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions concerning this. Otherwise, I just again say Happy Easter, and we'll see you again on the other side of the Easter break. Bye-bye.